Welcome everyone to the last gem of our triple crown as we learned the Daf and the Chumash here, and now we learn the Mishna Yomis. Tonight is the Yortzeit of David ben Chaim. David Arbach, his neshama should have an aliyah. We also learn a Fush Shalem for Yomis ben Chayesar, Yaakov ben Bas Yalev, for the schus of Avram ben Yom ben Shbemalch Yudis and family. We're sponsored by the Fisher family. Lili Nishmas, Basia Bas Rabbat, Shlomo ben Avram Alevi, Perel Bas Ruvain, that the neshama should have an aliyah. By Yod Klugman and family for their Panos, Gzunt and Nachas. L'Refu Shalema for Moshe Meir ben Esther Fradel, Avigdor Aya ben Rivka, Hinda Bas Chayesara, Chana Bas Shoshabini, Rivka Bas Shivalei, Yitzhak ben Tzim ben Dusha, and Meir ben Chayesara. They should have a Refu Shalema, B'Seich Shar Chayla Yisrael. So Mishnah Vav tells us, by an animal, if an animal is a treifa and you shecht it, let's say the animal had a perforated membrane in the brain, and you shecht it, although it's not mutter to be eaten, but the shechita helps to remove the tumas nevela. Our Mishnah will discuss, what about if you do malika, the way to kill a bird of kachim, what if you do malika on the treifa? Does that remove its tumas nevela? So malak v'nimtza treifa, if he does malika and he finds that the animal is a treifa. Just like by an animal, the malika helps at least to remove the tumas nevela. Rabbi Yehuda, no, it's a nevela metama bebeis abliya, and a bird that's a nevela is metami when you swallow it, and the malika doesn't remove, the malika of a treifa doesn't remove the tumas nevela. So Rameir gives his argument why it should remove. Rameir, Ma'im nivlas behema, whose tumah is more severe. She metama b'mago b'mas. It's metama when you touch it or when you carry it. Shchitasa metaris says treifasa metamasai. The shchita takes away the tumas nevela, even though it's a treifa. Nivlas ha'oif, the nevela of a bird, whose tumah is not that severe. Nivlas ha'oif. Sheina metama b'mago b'mas. It's not metama if you touch it, if you carry it. It's only metama if you swallow it. So since it doesn't have such a severe tumah, eino din shetei shritasa mataris es treifasa mitumasa. And it makes sense that we should compare it to an animal. Ma matzina b'shritasa she machsharta ba'achila. Normally, if the animal is not a treifa, the shchita allows you to eat it. U'metahera says treifasa mitamasa, even if it's a treifa, the shchita is metahired from the truma. Af malikasa, so a malika of kachin, that normally she machsharta b'achila, allows it to be eaten. Tetares treifasa mitamasa. So comes along Rabbi Yossi, and Rabbi Yossi says, look, to a limited amount, I agree with you. I agree that we compare the shechita of a bird, of chulin, to the shechita of an animal. And just like the shechita of an animal, if it's a treifa, it removes the nevela. So also the shechita of a bird of chulin, that's a treifa, will remove its tumas nevela. But you can't compare malika. Malika, there's no malika by an animal. I agree that just like the shechita of a nevela of an animal, if it's a treifa, it removes the tumas nevela. So also shchitasa metarta, the shechita of a bird of chulin, that's a treifa, it will remove the nevela. Abaloi malikasa. But not the malika. The malika of a bird that's a treifa, that you can't compare to an animal because there's no malika by an animal. And their taka, the nevela, the tumas nevela stays. And now we start the 8th parak. What a night of learning. We started at around 8:35. Now it's 20 to 11. Already 2 hours of learning. Wow. What a schus for all of us. Kol ha-Zevachim shenis'arvu b'chatos ha-mesis. There's halach l'meish misinai that 5 different types of chatas have to be left to die. I'm not going to tell you all 5. We'll discuss it in this Masechta. But one such chatas is a chatas shemeisu baleh. If the owner dies, then the chatas that he separated because of his sin has to die. Because en kapara la'achamisa. So kol ha-Zevachim shenis'arvu b'chatois ha-meisa. If other karbanas get mixed up with a chatas that has to die, and you don't know which one, they all die. Oy b'shar niskil, or if they get mixed up with an axe that killed somebody in front of 2 witnesses, so it has to die. Afilu achas beriba, even 1 in 10,000, because you can't be mevatel it, because it's a barrier creature is kosher. Yamusa kulam, they all have to die. But what about if they get mixed up with something that's osir, not that needs to be put to death? Nis'arvu b'shar shenevda b'yaveira. If it gets mixed up with an axe that a sin was done with. And now we're going to explain what kind of sins. Or an axe that killed somebody, but only with 1 witness. Or the owner admitted. Now it's not put to death because it's not 2 witnesses, but it's forbidden. So if other animals of karbanis get mixed up with this animal that Aveira was done with, or it killed somebody with the testimony of only 1 witness, or the admission of the owner. Now what is an animal that a sin was done with it? For Raiveya, if the animal sodomized a human, or Nirva, or was sodomized by a human, or B'muksa, an animal that was set aside for an offering to idolatry, or B'nevad, or an animal that was worshipped, or be'esnan, or an animal that was paid, used to pay a zayna, or be'mechir, or an animal that was exchanged for a dog, or be'kloyim, or an animal that's a hybrid. It's born, let's say, from a goat and a sheep. A hybrid kloyim is not fit for the mizbeach. Or be'treifa, or an animal that has a fatal flaw that it can't live for a year. Or be'yotzi daifen, or an animal that was born from a Caesarean section that's not admitted on the altar, and it got mixed up with a lot of other animals. So there, since it doesn't have to be put to death, yiru achi yistav, you let them all out to pasture until they get a mum, because you can't redeem them when they're unblemished. That which has kedushas on his back can't be redeemed when it's unblemished. So you let them all pasture until it gets a mum, and then you don't know which of those animals is the carbon, so you take the value of the most finest animal, and you bring the value of the best one from that type a carbon. Now let's say you have an animal from Oila that gets mixed up with a bunch of chulin animals that are unblemished. Nis'arei b'chulin tamimin. So since the animal that got mixed up was an Oila, so you sell all of the animals except for one as Oilos. You sell it to other people that need to bring an Oila. But you'll say, but how could the Kohen do it? He doesn't know which one belongs to the one that lost it. You can't have in mind for this owner, it might be the one that was lost that belongs to that owner. So the Rav explains the Kayin doesn't have in mind a specific person. He has in mind that each one should be offered to the true owner. And that's enough. We want to really thank all of you for joining us and wish everybody a wonderful evening.